How about now? Okay. Yeah, so I forgot about that. When I leave town and come back, no, that is kind of funny. Yeah, Scott. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. You guys got me straightened out. No, when I leave town and come back, my Yeti microphone stays here unless I'm actually giving training somewhere, and I normally I would look over here when I test my stuff when I first come up, but I didn't even see that my microphone wasn't running. So I had to reset off of default on OBS to come back up. So that was good. Good catching it, guys. So yeah, sorry about that, guys. Yeah, the music's pretty good. This is my chill streaming music. So yeah, you guys can hear me. That's good. Yeah. Well, I guess everybody else will just have to have read the subtitles because I think the subtitles were still working, right? That was probably why I thought everything was good. Yeah, because my microphone was hooked up, but not the OBS part. For some reason, it reset because OBS just tried to update. That's what it was. And I said, no, I don't want to update because I don't, guys, I don't want to be rebuilding shit in OBS right now while I'm trying to go live. You guys already probably know I do the bare minimum. And if I got to reset up just to get back to the bare minimum, I would have just watched something stupid on Netflix instead of doing this, right? Like I wasn't gonna hop on for that bullshit. So, anyways, all right, let's pull this up. And we're gonna call this. That's my generic one. Where's my new one at? God, why does this gotta be so hard, man? Just give me a new one. Just blank document. Yep, perfect. Don't even want to name it yet. I'm just gonna make a blank document, right? Be starting from like absolute bare metal because what I want to do is, so hardware, software. We're going to do build out. In software, we'll have a SBOM, which is our software bill of materials, right? Hardware, we're going to have, so in hardware, we're going to have this list of networking. We're going to have storage. We're going to have compute nodes, which may, in his instance, only be one, right? Because it could be something cheap or something cheaper than things that I've built for real systems. And then we're going to call them infrastructure or infra nodes, as they tend to be. So when we build a supercomputer out, right? The supercomputer is kind of like, it's the main reason that everybody's there, right? It's for the supercomputer. When the supercomputer goes down or up for maintenance or whatever, it is a cluster of systems doing whatever it's doing, typically what's over there, well, right up there above me, right? But the infra nodes are kind of like little lampreys around the outside. The infra nodes are like things that they're not really part of the supercomputer, but they touch it or they affect it, or they maybe they are doing other components of it that sometimes are drawn here, right? Like the login, the data transfer, and the web portal nodes. A lot of times we consider those infra nodes. They're off to the side, and that's just infra, like infrastructure. But then the reason that we're there, like the red carpet type systems where everybody's taking pictures of them, those are your compute nodes and like your storage nodes, right? So storage. Yeah, so networking, storage. Networking always has two components, which are your like management network, and then your SAN, which is your storage area network, right? So I'm just guys, I'm just outlining kind of one of my friends is doing. He's running his own consulting business now since he got out of the Space Force, and he was like, "Well, Scott, what would it be for me to do some of this same type of stuff? What kind of equipment would I need? What would that look like?" And I was like, "Well, I could slap some of that together for you, like an idea, right?" So I'm not telling you guys exactly who he is, obviously, and I'm not like actually on retainer for any kind of consultation. I'm just kind of putting together my thoughts of like what a smaller system would look like, if that makes sense. All right, so let's pull up some stuff here. Let me see if I have some nice setup. So let's see if I were to do like an that is a server from Dell. I'm just gonna get some general ideas, right? IT creations and 1U, very common type thing. Let's see what and spec sheets obviously are important for all of these, but let's see what one of these bad boys. So that's about 8K, right? So compute nodes. Maybe we'd start out with one of these, right? Oh yeah, revisualize. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Rob's, man. I tell people all the time, like RWX Rob, like early on, like I was sitting here, I was streaming, and like I was streaming to like 10 people or something. Well, actually, it's funny. I'm only streaming to about 20 people now, but I was streaming to like I don't mean nobodies, but like nobody, basically. Like nobody was on. And I remember Rob was like, "Don't you quit. I need you. Like stay here. Like don't be the guy that quits or whatever." So because I was like, fuck this. Why am I even doing this anymore, right? Like, because if you guys don't know, you don't make anything streaming. Like, you gotta be doing probably a few hundred people watching you to really, even that I wouldn't call anywhere near engineering money. I'd have to have probably thousands of people to make what I make, like as an engineer, right? So, anyways, where I'm going with that is money's not the only motivator, but my point in saying that is, Rob was a big part of me sticking with it. I was like, fuck this, I ain't doing this anymore. I still think that sometimes, but I try to stick with it because, like, why not? So compute nodes, PowerEdge R6625, right? And that's approximately. So we use an approximation sign as engineers, right? 79. Let's say approximately 8,000. That's going to be pretty bottom floor without anything special in it. So that server probably out the door is probably going to be around like 10K when you add some. You don't really need much storage in it, but you do need probably to update or upgrade the amount of RAM in it. In fact, Yeah. And in our compute nodes, we don't really need much storage. You might think like, oh yeah, I'm going to put a whole bunch of storage in this. So compute nodes, a lot of times we let that stuff offload to the back-end SAN, right? But we need that. We're going to need some cards in it, and the cards are going to cost a little bit, the InfiniBand cards. But infra node, okay, so that's going to be what our, let's just say that right now as I'm kind of putting this together. And then, let me see here. We could do, he probably doesn't need shared storage like that. Let's go see what one of these little guys looks like. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to grab this, right, just so we have it. But that's going to be basically what's needed for the compute nodes, and then also or InfiniBand really. Connect X7s are pretty good. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find a price. What do they cost? They're about $2 grand, a little over $2 grand each. So that's pretty funny. Yeah. I am looking at Dell servers. Yeah. Well, I'm parting something out for somebody, or I'm giving approximate. Connect X7. So now we're looking at about 10K just for the compute nodes, right? Let's go look at, and then did we find? And that may not be the only price, but it could also be. Yeah. There's a little bit of low price to them, and you might even be able to get them with a Dell if you were ordering a Dell system for that. And then typically, so we go something like a S5 232F. It's one of their gateway switches. These are pretty good. These are a lot of times the ones that we'll use as like kind of our protection of the network to air gap it off. I wonder if we have a price for this. Ooh-wee. Those ones get to be. We'll probably leave that out. We actually technically don't need that. But that is one. Oh, look, those things are all in the 40K range. Or high 25s. He's not going to need that for his initial setup, so we'll leave that off. But that is something that we might use out here to separate the networks. We're going to go ahead and not probably use that one as much. Let's say that we wanted to use a particular type of storage. We could use many different types of storage, but maybe we use like some kind of server like this that can be configured over for storage, right? And then these ones, a lot of times you'll just put a lot of storage in them. That thing's going to start at about 15. Ooh. And then all the storage is going to be a little bit more. And you know what? I may move these down a little bit, but approximately 14. Let's call it 15,000 approximately. And then the disks, right? So the disks in there are going to be, I don't even know if they have what their disks cost. Yeah, look, and this is only at the 16 gigs of RAM, which you would probably want more than that. But to start, that would be fine. Where are the? Oh, look at that! Some of those disks, man. Yeah, some of these projects I work on have so much, just massive amounts of storage. SAS SSD, SATA SSD, and then maybe just basic little SAS hardware. But you're going to need quite a bit of, oh wow, look at that. If you're running FIPS, right? That's the Federal Information Processing Standard, right? Whew. Man, those things are fucking sticker shock. We might even start him out, like his storage may even be, what do I call massive storage? I don't know. I guess massive storage for me would be like many petabytes right now. I mean, I work with petabytes pretty often. So I guess massive storage would be like in the many petabytes, maybe almost pushing exabytes sometimes. But I work with weather data, so like there's a lot of a lot in there. All right, let's leave this because we could even to start for him. He doesn't need to start at like enterprise level. If I haven't kind of emphasized that, he can start a little lower. So I may scope that one down. In fact, I'm almost guaranteeing you I am going to scope that one down because that's going to be a bit much. But what's one of these cost? So and then you need your SFP connectors on these as well. Well, let's see what one of these might cost us here from Dell. I am curious as to what one of these guys. We don't even need 64 ports. Let's go with this. Oh, making sure I'm a human. What else would I be? All right. We might look for something smaller than this because that's a lot. That's a lot to start too. I mean, I'm not saying that's outside of maybe even his budget, but that's a bit high for what we want. Let's see if there's just to start like a 16 port. And we probably want to do EDR. Let's see if Dell sells any smaller versions of those switches because I've only used the big ones, right? So well, revisualize. Yeah, if you send me something on Discord, it won't like I can move it over to the side. Yeah, I won't show who you are or nothing. Yeah. Okay, I can put it off the side. No thanks. Get out of here, Dell. I work with Dell all the time, guys. By the way. All right, so I could get a 24 port. Let's see what a 24 port looks like. And again, he doesn't need all the speed. He just needs it to look something like. Something. Oh, gotta get out of my face. I'm okay with something smaller. Power switch. I need to make a few parts of this like. Also, I need to capture these different ones when I pull them up. All right, hold on. Let me pull this up to the side real quick and see what this message is. Hold on. Yeah, let me get this out of the way over here. Oh, yeah. I figured it was something like that. We have a fair amount of people that work for a lot of different companies out there. Yeah. People that hang out in our Discord and stuff. So, yeah. I'm not surprised when somebody's at, some company that's similar. I mean, we've talked about quite a few of them, but I'm not surprised. Hold on. I'm bouncing around too much. What's the 3200 series spec sheet? 48 port power over Ethernet. We don't care about power over Ethernet. We care about if they can do no. If they're not InfiniBand switches, we don't need them. Well, these ones are just our these are just our normal Ethernet ones, which are fine. Let's see what the internet tells us this thing costs. Most of these are like, what are those things called? VARs, right? Value-added resellers and those kind of things. I'm trying to see. All right. Oh, we're getting there. We're getting closer. See if we can find. I know nobody ever wants to tell you the price of anything, but these guys say it's about 8,500, so that's what we're gonna go with for that. Networking, so management will be one of these. IMC 3200, and that's what did I say, 8,500 or so. And then and we definitely can take that. I could definitely do a cheaper version of that. We don't need to go that hardcore on that for now. Could have sworn I had. Go back to that 9,700. To these, but I think this is one that was like 30K. Yeah, that's just component pieces. That's not gonna. They're on eBay for 30K. What I need is yeah, 9,700 is what I normally program. I want to see if they have any smaller ones. Oh, they have 800 gigabits per second. That's pretty good. And then we do multiple connections as well. Johnny Man, how's it going? What's my thoughts on OpenHPC? Would I recommend for learning? I mean, you can learn on anything, I guess. So OpenHPC, I think, is that the project that the Linux Foundation's using? I'm not 100% sure, but if you want to build it, I would say learn the pieces. That's my advice. Like learn the pieces, especially the pieces that might be interesting to you. So E. Brown had asked about OpenHPC. It's the same thing with like using what's that tool, Bright, right? Like Bright is this awesome clustering tool that you can just push a button and have a cluster. But the problem with that is, by building a cluster, you would learn a lot about having a cluster. If you were like, hey, well, Scott, what I want to do is actually just run jobs and I don't want to be in the maintenance of it, I would tell you use a tool like Bright, or I imagine something like HPC. But if you tell me, Scott, I want to be like an administrator and a person that works on these systems, I would tell you, then go do that. Johnny Man, I got asked this weekend. One of my buddies got out of like the Air Force and Space Force. He worked for both of them, and he's doing contracting now. And he was asking me to kind of price out what like a supercomputing system look like, or a system might look like that was scaled down to be like more reasonable. And I told him what I thought, like off the top of my head, it might cost, but it might. So let me back up. I could make it. Let me move this so I can actually see myself while I'm talking. I could make something that would work much like my home lab for like a few $100, like maybe even a couple grand. But to make it a little more in line with kind of how those workflows actually look, I was using some actual components to kind of see what the price would look like. Because I thought I told him I think I could probably build something like that for around 40K, but I may have been a little low on that because just even these base systems here are going to put us pretty close to that without even putting anything in them, without even getting an infra node up. And an infra node, we really only need one of these, right? So we could use the same one, and then we could just virtualize all of them. So that would be, we'll virtualize all of our infrastructure nodes inside of one box just for now, and then as he scales up his operations, get more and more kind of going on, right? Yeah. So that would be hardware. Let's go software, and then let's go. Yeah, we'll do it in build out. Infra servers, and then we'll do compute servers, right? Let's just do that. We know they're servers, right? And then we'll go from there. Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at there. So this was just kind of my layout of base hardware that he's going to need. So I need to get back to the SAN thing. I need to find something that can do that's an InfiniBand switch of some type, right? And again, we could find older versions of things, and I may even I was even telling him, I was like, if it's just me doing this stuff for you, I can do it. But I said if it's like starts to become like a consulting gig, then typically what I would do is I would like turn it over to my company, and then we would do it for him, right? Like I would have my company do it. If it's just like, you know, some hours of my time to like put something together, kind of like I'm doing while I'm streaming, this is, you know, just me brain dumping all this stuff out, right? But yeah, let's go with some of this up. So our software bill of materials might look something like this, right? That's our software bill of materials, SBOM, right? A common thing for it would be OS would probably be Rocky 9X, right? Because it would be whatever version of Rocky. We would have so we might even do something like that. Rocky 9X as our OS, our cluster manager, one that I build out very often and is on some of the same systems he'll be interacting with as Werewolf, right? And CIQ is support, right? So we would have support through CIQ. We could pay for a management contract for that. This is the same thing here. And then our job scheduler would be probably Slurm. Slurm would be my first choice because that's the one I know the best. And then Slurm would be, I always forget, it's like SkedgeMD. Yeah, SkedgeMD. That's the name of the company. Right? So that would be our job scheduler. And we obviously within if any of you guys have ever done a software bill of materials, then it would be, you know, all the packages. So when you build it out and you get it all up, then you would build out all the packages of each of the systems, right? So your software bill of materials is going to be your operating system, which in our case would be Rocky 9X, whatever is supported. Probably even specific versions that we could jump through between as we keep our different stuff. Our cluster manager would be Werewolf. He's going to be the one that knows everything that's going on. Job scheduler is going to be how jobs get into our system to run through. And then that's the main part of that. The other parts of the software would be for storage. We would probably use either Luster. We'd probably use Luster, right? Luster's a very common one. And we have Open SFS. Actually, it's called Wham Cloud. I don't know, it's a funny name. right? We probably get them to do the support. If we are required, so when you do government contracts, you are required to have support for anything that's being maintained, which is why you pick these. You go, Scott, why wouldn't you just use some open source thing? Well, because open source is great, but open source isn't supportable in all cases in such a way where you can call somebody in the middle of the night, put a ticket in, let the government know that somebody's working on it. You can press on them. You know what I'm saying? Like the kind of things you can do when you have support. If you don't have support for something, you're just sending something into a mailing list. That doesn't fly with government systems. I don't know if you guys know that, but it doesn't. So storage, OS, cluster manager. I gotta pull up my own notes because I don't remember. I don't remember my own stuff here. Let's go look in our. Software stack and executables will come from a tool called SPAC. It's a very common way to do that. And what I need to pull up here real quick, that's very bright, is my HPC talk at. Just want to check. This is our original HPC talk. Just want to go see storage, networking, HPC tooling. If we, yeah. So connection. We're going to use open on demand, right? That'll be our connection into this stuff, right? Yeah, agent. Mean time to repair is a big part of that. Yeah, well, it's that, and also just being able to have somebody else there that is officially supporting something. You can't use things that aren't officially supported, even if that support's terrible. Like, I mean, I hate to say this, but if any of you guys have ever worked with Red Hat, when you send a ticket in for the first time, it's absolutely going to be the first 2 levels of support are going to be things that I promise you every engineer you've ever met, and probably all of you, would have already went and read. Because do you want to ask people? I don't want to ask people stuff. I want to figure stuff out myself. But when I've went through all the docs and I've went through everything online that I have access to in Red Hat, then I'm going to send up a ticket, right? But the tickets in Red Hat, the first 2 ones are like, have you tried turning it on off again? And by the way, the have you tried turning it on off again equivalent in the engineering world is have you went to the most recent version. And sometimes you can't go to the most recent version because you're frozen. We freeze supercomputing environments as they are. We don't fucking update them willy-nilly to fix a problem. That is not the way engineering works, right? Like, we build things and they are stability first. Security only takes precedence if it's going to affect that system in some way, and we can't mitigate it other ways, right? So yeah, there's the things that you always have to, you always have. That's why I always tell you guys the first 2 things I do when I get on a system, like I don't care what it is. Like if you were to send me a request on something, I do a uname-r and a cat Etsy splat release, because those are the first 2 things. You're gonna have to put them in with the ticket anyways. Those 2 things right there. Well, and like maybe you're on a box that, you know, the guy who normally maintains the server is out of town, and you're just on his server or on his set of servers fixing it or whatever. Yeah. Have you updated your machine? Yeah. Your machine's not borking anymore. So is there something wrong with it? So these are kind of the things that I would do. And then this is right. So this would be my Rocky Linux link, right? And I'm just kind of doing this for a buddy. So, you know, if I were to put these all together, Werewolf is here. Let's go Werewolf, right? It's spelled that way. Job scheduler would probably be Slurm. Let's see, Slurm. There you go, Slurm documentation. Storage might be something like Lustre, which comes from OpenSFS. I'll just keep opening this up. Right, that's the Lustre. And then, so let's see, Lustre. Oh, it is just luster.org. Okay. And you do have to spell it that way because that's what it is. All right. SPAC. And I've told you guys, like, I work with one of the primary maintainers on SPAC. SPAC is an awesome tool that I do not know nearly as well as I'd like to. But if you have multiple systems that are going to function in tandem or in any other way, and you want them all to talk to each other the same way, SPAC, or you're going to be handing jobs and you need all the libraries to be exactly the same. SPAC is like if you guys are familiar with like a Conda or an Anaconda, where people like load modules and stuff for their like Python and different types of environments. SPAC is like that on, I hate the term on steroids, but it is that, like, massively scaled out and to a really high level. So let's get open on demand. Open on demand, which is an awesome way to connect people. I've set this up for some colleges. I've set this up for some other customers of ours, and it's an awesome tool for doing what it needs to do. So in fact, I got to keep working on that this week because I got a project that I'm deploying that on for a customer. I might be putting that in the lab, and I might make that the way that people connect into our cluster in the future. So like early on, like years ago, when I first got back into high performance compute, so that would have been like, I don't know, 2002, because I'd worked in high performance compute since the early 2000s, and then I left it for a little bit to just go do like enterprise stuff. And when I got back to it, I was going to turn the whole Prolog environment into that so that people could do research on it. That was kind of the original thing that I was going to do. And then I was like, well, I don't know, I need to show people Linux, right? It's not just doing stuff on top of Linux, which is good and that's valuable, and I'd probably find some people that like to do research. But the group that we run, the Professional Linux Users Group, is much more of like we want to teach people how to use Linux. So I want to show them how to set this stuff up, right? That's all Linux here. So that's kind of the goal. All right, so software storage build out. I'm going to also say security, and then what else would I do here? So the security will be part of the build out, but maybe like the reporting of it. All right. Yeah. Did I get open on demand? Good. Okay. All right. Build out infra compute. There'd probably be build out. There would be security. There would probably be training. So we would have like a plan for training, which when we build computers, like supercomputers, I'm always the guy that does the training for everybody. Which is why I think some of you guys know, like back in, it was actually right whenever Halloween is. So it's at the end of October. It was the end of October. Me and the wife got sent out to Maui. Well, she came with me, right? I got sent out there for a week, and she just came with me and hung out for a week. But I was like, part of the days, each day I was in the high performance compute center, and then the other parts of the day I was like just hanging out with the wife and like kind of being on like a mountain. I've never been to Hawaii before that, so it was kind of fun. So I like that Open On Demand has swag for everyone. That's pretty funny. That's actually really funny. They got a little online clothing store. That's pretty good. Yeah. This would be if we did more scientific stuff around here, I would definitely set some of this stuff up. But yeah. But we don't focus so much on that. We focus on the learning Linux around here, right? That's kind of what the stream is. It's all sand. Yeah, we're sand people. We are sand people out here. It was 114 today, guys. That's Fahrenheit for people, but I'm sure that's some large number, and I think that's like what, 40 C or something. What is hold on, 114 F2C. Yeah, that's 45. So I was sitting at 73 all day here. because I have my AC on, right? So I was sitting at 22, but it was 114 outside. So yeah, it was hot today. And it's funny, I have a my solar on my roof. It collects it's 15 kilowatt hour system, so it's a pretty big system, and it's south facing. And I actually sell power back even during the day. But today, because my brother's out of town, he's got my truck and he's like going up. I think he's in. He was at Mount Rushmore a little while ago, so he's way up north. He's got my truck, so I've got his car, and his car can plug in. So I like trickle charged his car all day and put it like 50% up the battery, like during the day while I was basically just pulling that right out of the sun. So I was like, oh, that's cool. Because you might say, well, why don't you sell it back? The extra you could sell back. Yeah, but you sell back at 1/2 the cost. Like I was explaining to the wife, and she didn't get it, but you ever buy something in a video game and you turn around and you go, oh shoot, I didn't mean to buy that, and you try to sell it back, and it's immediately half the value, and you're like, it hasn't even left the counter yet. It's literally still sitting there, but it's half the value. That's how my solar is. When I sell back, it's at 1/2 the value of what I get out of it. And you say, well, that can't be legal. Well, to be fair, it's probably about like when I sell it back, it's probably like 80%, but there's so many fees and shit on there that they nickel and dime you down to where it's not. It's better for me to use the power, is my point. In fact, we're gonna probably you soloed it, yeah. Me and the wife were actually talking about, I'll probably get like a battery here soon, because then 9 months out of the year, me and the electricity the company won't have any business. They'll just be hooked up to my house. And then in summer, there's just enough at night that I wouldn't have been able to collect enough, and just in summer I would owe them a little bit. But like, yeah, because it's wild out here. Like my AC has to go all night to keep my house under 100. In fact, there was a thing one time, I think it was last year. There was a day where it didn't go under 100 in Phoenix, even at 5 a.m. the next morning, it was still 100. So that was wild, because we have so much concrete and stuff out here, and it just wasn't cooling off. But we'll get in the 120s sometimes, but that's less common. 110s are pretty common, but 120 is less common, but it does sometimes shoot up there. All right, where were we at? So we were doing all this. We got all this documentation and stuff. We gotta go pull this one, so let's go get that. Start maintenance, NVIDIA stuff. Those ones were more expensive than what we wanted, but what am I trying to think here? Let's see what other. I don't want a sales thing. IP2 switch, okay. Let's see what one of these guys looks like, because we don't need as much as those other ones. Yeah, let's see what these guys say they are. Yeah, 7300 is more reasonable. Mellanox switch LB to SB 7800 36 port. Now, none of these have the SFP adapters in them. You have to buy those separate, right? So that's another thing to think about. Those are separate. And let's pull that. Let's move this over a little bit. So let's see. That one's and I'm a big fan of going and grabbing their. Oh, look at that one, 32K. but that one's probably got the 36 10 by 100 gigabit QSFP. So you need the, if you go buy these, right? Right. And those are, watch these modules. And we need just the transceiver modules, so something like this. I just want to see about what those are. Those are about $100 each. So on this, let's say QSFP 28 modules, approximately 100 each, right? And we would say we need like 10 of them. So, you know, that's $1,000. This won't be a cheap build out for him. I mean, he does really well. My buddy that's building this all out, he does really well as a contractor, but this is the kind of idea of what this would look like. So sand, the storage would be that. Discs are going to be, let's just estimate that we're going to have in a starting system 10x, and then I guess we can do, we'll go look at those discs again, but they were, we just wanted the SATA discs, and I think they were 8.7 TB. I don't know if that's exact, and they were approximately 1,300 each. So you know that's gonna be 13 grand. But I mean, I guess maybe we could go a little less on that to start. We don't need 10. So that'll be, I'll put all that together here in a little bit. We do need to go get the Power Edge. 7615. You can go grab this. Right. Oh, I don't want that. It's too much. What's the minimum we can do there and still work? All that mess on there. All their tagging so that they know where the campaign came from, the ad campaign. I don't want none of that stuff. Get out of here. I think that'll do it. That bring us back there? Yeah. And then the discs that went with it were around 13 something. All right, so management switch. That's gonna be management. There's gonna be cables and such, right? There's gonna be various cable. I mean, technically, there's like a rack, probably, or a half rack. That's gonna probably, if I had to guess, that's gonna be, you know, $1,000. But maybe he's gonna have that. I don't know. Maybe that's all his infrastructure. I don't know. Cables. Various, probably going to be like 2K, let's say maybe. I don't know. This is going to be my rough estimate of what like some of these things priced out would be. Let's grab this real quick. So this was EMC 3200 series, right? And where is that? So he's got it. And then we should go grab this guy. Because, you know, maybe he wants to look and, I don't know, maybe get another opinion or something. That's probably fine. I'm gonna scale that down. He doesn't need this, like, not to start. He doesn't need this much power to start. But maybe, yeah, and anyways, he might do even more of those, and then maybe a little less there. So yeah, we'll play with that. Software bill of materials, operating system, cluster, storage. We need virtualization. And nowadays, I would probably recommend something like Proxmox, right? Because that's gonna, I mean, the one that everybody's moving towards. And I think they even have a paid-for version if he really wanted to, right? Right, he could get a paid-for version if he wants to go that route. All right. So build out security training. Gotta put all these pieces together. Hopefully I'm not missing. I don't think I'm building too much chat. Be cheaper using AWS PCS versus build. No, E Brown. He's got a constraint to be in a skiff, and to be in a skiff, you have to have you have to have your own hardware for that. And for the government stuff that he's gonna do, you couldn't do it on public cloud. It's like true intelligence, actual like processing of data that can only be passed through like top secret channels, you know. So like you actually have to get your skiff certified, and the fiber optic cable that comes out there, everything has to be certified and locked down, and you got to close your skiff and all this stuff. And that's SCIF, by the way. SCIF is secure compartmentalized information facility, right? And he's gonna get one of those set up, and then he was just looking for like a general idea of like what the cost might look like to put that all together. All right, so anyway, so we're there. We're building towards this. So now the infra nodes that we're gonna need are gonna be login nodes, right? One or two or many of those. Data transfer nodes. We're not gonna say nodes, we're just gonna say login. And he needs data transfer. He has opted. We were talking. We were just talking at a party, so it wasn't like super serious. But opted out of web transfer. What's going on over there? Oh, and then let's put at the bottom of this like we're not gonna do like a full references page like we're doing APA formatting. Although I can do that. I'm not gonna do all that for this because this is just us doing it. So references will be there. We may even pull that figure in as like a reference, you know, like this is the reference architecture for what we're building, and that would look maybe something like this, you know, pull this in and go, you know, something like that, and say copy reference architecture. And actually what would be better, what I kind of for me, it would be even better to say, here's our initial reference architecture, right? And then our drawing will be over here, and right, pull up our Excalibur draw. We'll clear this. Let's make sure we save that real quick. That should be home lab logic. Yep, and then reset it. And then we might draw something that looks like this, but it'll be actually our actual connection to the skiff, right? So we'll start. I always start my drawings like this. I don't claim any great expertise, but this will be over here, and because I do have my little stylus here, this will be by hand, right? And I'll go. And that will be, for us, that will be for government, and right, so it'll be government connection into our skiff. And then for us, we would have all of our hardware functionality, whatever we were going to do. Maybe we drop a firewall right here. Probably something like that, typically, some kind of firewall. And then we would have our internal management network, and then we would have our cluster external network, as they call here, and then our internal network, which is air-gapped away, And then these are like the management zone. That's where we would be putting our infra nodes, right? So yeah, they have access zone versus management, but I think of all this as infra. So maybe we skip that. Maybe we add that in as part of our build out. So computer node, infra nodes, and then that'll be part of the build out then. So infra will have access, right? Which would be, whoops, these guys. That's access zone. And then the things that are inside that will do this other part will be down here. So this will be in our management. And these are going to be so real quick, for us to have this as a if we're going to make this an air gapped system, which I'm pretty sure he wants it air gapped, we're immediately going to have to do 2 of these. And the reason is because you can't have, if you're going to have one in the air gapped zone here and the other one over here, you can't do that inside the same virtualized machine. So that immediately doubles that. Although we can, again, we're going to make this, we're going to get a smaller machine. We don't need something that beefy for that. Management zone, management, there we go. And this will be yeah, so this will be Slurm head node, and then depending on if he wants it to be a separate node, which I'm going to recommend it is Slurm DB node, right? So then you've got the Slurm head node, and he's the one running Slurm. The Slurm DB node is running MariaDB, so that's going to be the only database to speak of in this. So you know, we'll probably keep that right with the job scheduler here. So Slurm, and then right, and then we'll let that be MariaDB. Or some people call that Mariah. Somebody help me out. I've always called it MariaDB, but I have heard that. Whoa, I've heard that called MariaDB, and I don't know that I'm all in on that. You know what? Hold on. Find their stupid page. There we go. There we go. All right. So we got that. Look, some of you guys were here when I started this, right? And didn't I start this at just one page? I started this at a blank page, right? And we're already up to, like, you know, 2 pages and a little bit of change, and we haven't even done anything yet. We've only went and just found stuff and just plugged it in. I haven't started like building out like what it would look like and that kind of stuff. I mean, the patterns are all the same, but we've got this. We've got the scheduler. We're gonna draw this stuff over here as we go. And then, yeah, so there would be the werewolf head node, right? And then he's going to be doing all of the other stuff, and he's going to do the provisioning, and he's going to do cluster services stuff from him. If we needed to, we could break out a different storage node, but actually the werewolf node works pretty well for that. If the cluster started to grow, then there's a possibility that you start to split things off from that. But as a, let me think, as a start, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good, I think, start for that. Compute might be we would just call it, let's give this cluster a name. I don't have a name for his cluster. I'm just gonna name it. Naming's always the worst thing. Let's call it I want to call it koala, and then say you're not qualified. It's a stupid. I got timed out one time for my boss in a meeting for that. I said, you're not qualified to answer this, and he's like, Scott, you can't talk for 15 minutes. I was like, I didn't want to talk anyways. Okay, but I don't know. My jokes are only funny to me, but compute is going to be let's call them. Oh, what are we gonna call these nodes? I don't know. They're gonna be virtualized too. Well, maybe to start. Yeah, to start we'll probably virtualize them. But then we'll want. Well, we might want to just stay away from that and just go right on bare metal because that is always faster. But let's call them. I mean, let's call them. I was gonna say Space Force, but let's call them Space. That's fine. And a lot of times we'll write this when we're writing these like this, because a lot of tools will accept that as an input. So a lot of times we'll write this. And then these compute nodes in their build out are going to have these components of, they're going to be the Rocky 9X, whatever that actually is. They're going to have a Slurm. They're going to have a open IBD version of some type, right? Open IBD is how you connect onto your InfiniBand. They're going to be running. They're going to have some type of Slurm client on them, right? They're going to have Slurm, and then they're going to have Luster client on them as well, so that they can do the high speed. So those are things that are going to have to be standardized as exact versions that work together when we first do our initial testing. And I've told you guys this before, but like when we update supercomputers, when we update anything high performance compute, all of this has to be tested and moved forward. Almost like have you ever seen those people that are like carrying like a tray and then they have a bunch of like champagne glasses stacked on it, and if they move a little bit, everything falls over? It's a lot like that. Every version has to, when you go to update everything has to be updated together, or you have to roll it all the way back to the last stable thing you had. So it can be kind of a interesting thing, right? So Slurm head node is going to have Slurm CTLD, which is the control daemon, and it's going to have Munge on it, and Munge will be on all these compute nodes as well. You need Munge running for Slurm to talk. Slurm database node is going to only have MariaDB server on it, and then that server is going to be a specific version of whatever it's doing, right? What else do I need? Back. Build out compute, security. All right. So if we start going into security, we'll have to start talking about the STIGs that we're going to deal with, right? And I can go grab. That's fine. Gotta start our numbering over again. I think we can just restart at 1. Yeah, there we go. Security is going to be then STIG compliance, and we are going to STIG Rocky, and we'll go grab the Rocky STIG. We will do MariaDB. We will do Apache, and we will do we could do the network too. For the login and data transfer nodes, we're going to have SE Linux enabled, and we're going to have FIPS compliance. That's going to be true for both of those, right? And that's a requirement when you touch government systems typically. So we're going to have those turned on for that. In the job scheduler, we're going to need Munge, because Munge is a key exchange protocol, so you can Munge a key between two people or two systems or whatever, and Munge is how Slurm happens to talk between the control daemon and all the clients. So It's Slurm talks on. I have to go look that up. But by the way, that is something that's always included in the software bill of materials. So typically under training, one of the things we would include here, or sorry, under security would be network. What the heck's the name of that network? So there's a network boundary drawing that we're going to include in this. It's going to look similar to this, but probably with our firewall in the front of it. And then what allows access or doesn't allow access into the system, because we're gonna build it the way we draw it, right? So when we draw it, then we can say, okay, this is what's actually happening. All right. We could also over here, since we're gonna have one rack in our hardware, one of the things we may include in the hardware will be, and I can't go on any further, so elevation drawing, right? And then we would include in there our drawing of what the actual racks look like as they're laid out with the devices in them. So we could draw that, right? We could put that all together. STIG compliance, let's go find our STIGs. So these are STIGs. Document library. Let's go grab the most current version of the STIGs for each of these. And it looks like, and by the way, every time you do more STIGs, you have to re-update your library. So rel is currently at, so that's a tool for rel. There's Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8, and all the entries. Show us all the entries. All right, so there's the most recent one right there, and we don't want to click on it because it's going to download it. So what we want to do instead is grab, copy the link address. And maybe we'll pull that off so that's not the exact one, because I don't want him accidentally downloading it when he clicks on it, right? Well, I don't know. I guess I'll just delete it. I'll be sending this over to my buddy later. And then, so MariaDB. Want the most recent one for version 2. So this is that one. Right. And here. And then this is actually HTTPD, I believe. Yeah, maybe it is Apache. Alright, it's Apache. You want it for Unix, even though there's no Linux one. So boom. All right, so STIG compliance then. STIG checklists provided to ISSO and maintained by, right? And then the STIG, so the compliance, oops, STIG Ansible and OpenSCAP playbooks, right? And then that's super easy to do if you guys have never done that. I actually have labs that show you how to do that up on Killer Coda, but OpenSCAP is the way that we go build that out. So here's the OpenSCAP. Right. Yeah. So there we go. Those are all going to be virtualized. These are all going to be virtualized. These are all going to be virtualized as well. And then these ones, these are all all of these have to be, I think about the Slurm head node and DB node actually can be done inside of so these will be werewolf containers that are running. So werewolf will build these. Yep, data transfer. Data transfer nodes are sometimes called data movers, and there's a bunch of different names for them. What do they have them called here? Yeah, they just call them data transfer nodes, but they're just nodes that deal with whatever the way we want to move data in and out of the system is. All right. So look at that, guys. I'm not even trying, and we're already almost to 4 pages, or almost into the 4-page range. Training. I don't know. Gotta restart numbers. You know, I don't know. 4-day. On hardware. Hardware access, because you got to be able to access it. There's typically 4 things that we train on, right? So this is actually the way the government always writes it, just so you guys know. So it's hardware preventative maintenance, right? And then it's hardware so if it's not preventative, it's corrective, right? And then it's that same thing, and you say, well, is it the same thing but with the word software? Yes. This is the way the government tends to write, like, the contracts, and it's like, okay, this will be software now. So we got to do preventative maintenance checks and services. That's what we called them in the military, right? Preventative maintenance checks and services, PMCSs. And then we also have corrective when something's wrong as something's in operation, right? So then 4 days of comprehensive. This is just the way that I normally would do something like this, right? It wouldn't maybe need to be exactly this, but yeah, this is the idea. This is like the things that I kind of had laid out in my head for this friend of mine that, again, caught me at this party this weekend and said, hey, I was up in Denver. I was down in Colorado Springs, which is not far from Denver, and we were just talking, you know, a little shop. He was drinking. We were watching the UFC fights. One of my buddies was turning 40. It was kind of like a fun thing. I think we had about 70 people there. It was pretty wild party. But we he and I had gotten to talking, and he kind of wanted some of these things laid out. Okay. Then there's all these other things that we can work in there and look at. This idea of user software, that's also tied up in software stack. So this might be called software stack, maybe user software. We got some container type stuff. Diskless booting, HPC, that's going to be what we would be doing is over a PXE, which is a pre-boot execution environment, or iPXE is actually what we use. So they mention a lot of different types of technologies in this thing as like a general. I always tell people, read these to get the high level understanding of the thing, but then you're going to have to go dig down and build the tools out and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, Julius, I was up in Colorado Springs this week. I actually just flew back last night. We went yesterday over to, what's it called? Royal Gorge. So we were over at Royal Gorge yesterday riding. There's a walk, guys. Man, that bridge is so high, but you walk across the bridge, and then there's a gondola or a zip line back. And I can't do the zip line. So I get to do the gondola, Or we could have walked back, but we chose to do the gondola, and then we waited for all the people that wanted to zip line. It took, from the time they got in line until they were done, was probably about an hour. It didn't even seem like that were that many people. It's just like the way they do it for security and stuff. They can only be sending one person across that at a time, and you know, they're very interested in security around there and all that kind of stuff. So, oh wow, look at that. That took, so that right there, this took me an hour and 20 minutes to slap together, right? Which I'm not billing him or anything, but you know, if I was billing him, that would be, we'd round it up to 2. I'd keep working on it, but we'd round that up to 2. You don't ever do less hours, right? You always go up into the next hour. But I would, especially since it's for a friend, I would bill him for the whole 2 hours if I was going to do that. But I would keep working on this as well, which don't get me wrong, I'm not done with this by any stretch. This will probably, when I'm done with this will probably be about 8 or 9 pages of just like the initial. Well, I mean, it depends how much I go into the setup, because the build out, lots of stuff to go into here, how we do this, or what we would do with this. So where we would take all this. Yeah, lots of stuff there. So hopefully I didn't miss anything. Yeah. We have very specific constraints, and that's why I'm not using the cloud for any of this. But if I didn't have those constraints of security, I would probably have pushed him towards the cloud and been like, well, man, you could actually run workloads and barely even pay pennies until you're actually getting, he's already got work, but I'm saying you could be doing test workloads in the cloud for damn near free. I mean, what's it matter if you're spending 25 cents here and there to do like test workloads, if when you're done doing that, you're going to get, you know, a multi-million-dollar contract, which is the type of contracts this guy's working on. Like, and he's like, he was doing them, and he's like, why don't I just have my own business doing these contracts for myself, and then I'll just get the contract and pay myself. And that's what he's doing. So I'm like, all right, well, this is what the build out would look like. So, you know, or I told him I would write up what the build out looked like. So do we want to draw some stuff? I got the drawing open, so I guess I should start with that, but I don't know if he's gonna need a firewall, but maybe I should assume that I have to build the firewall for him as well. He won't have anything in there that's not SCIF, like not secure, so like we don't have to worry about so typically you have to keep devices at least a foot away from each other, or I think it's even 3 feet away from each other in SCIFs. I'd have to look up the standard on it. And even the cables can't be that close to each other. And you say, well, what? So the you know, the electromagnetic interference doesn't jump to the other cables. Well, I mean, you can read data that is passed between 2 different cables that are near enough to each other. That's been proven many times, especially with, well, you don't get EMI with optics, so if we did fiber optics everywhere, it wouldn't matter. But if he's got Ethernet anywhere, then it would have to be, you know, 3 feet apart or whatever. But you, again, you guys probably know this, but you don't get EMI with light. Light's not electromagnetic, right? So you don't get that interference. It also isn't affected by it. So it's neither affected by it, nor does it produce it. But all copper cables produce it and are affected by it. Which is, by the way, why there's twists down a cable, is because that's the way to minimize the crosstalk between cables, is by having different values of twists down the cable. So if you didn't know, if you were to take a 100-meter cable, and you were to untwist those, they would all be different lengths of cable because of the fact of the twists are changing the length within the cable. Some of you probably knew that, but if you didn't, yeah, like a 100-meter cable will yield somewhere between, like, I think 103 meters and like 113 meters of cable in there. It's pretty interesting, but yeah, they're not all twisted the same either. So the by color pair, they will be the same length, but they will be different lengths for sure. All right. Yeah, I don't want to draw. I'll get back to my drawing later, but we got that stuff. We got the Stig stuff. We got the open scap. Oh, you know what we haven't checked on? We haven't checked on Ranger Cam. How's Ranger doing? Oh, all right. There's Ranger. That's Ranger down there. Being Ranger. I'll let this spin a little bit. What else should I include on this? Got the software, got the build out. It might be good. Although it's kind of here, but it would be maybe even before references. It would be. I get, you know what, I'll save myself trouble. I'll just call it under training, and it will be runbook labs for or training and system labs. That'll be start of runbook for the system. So when I say start of the runbook for system, you have when you have a system handed off to you, right? When you're an operational team and you're given a system by a vendor, or even you guys are you know, you've built your own system, and now the guys that are building it out on the, you know, build engineer teams, they want to hand it over to operations, right? You want to give it to all the more junior admins to crawl around and keep working for people, right? Excuse me. You have to provide people with a run book. The run book is a lot of these same things. It's like a hardware preventative maintenance, and like it's kind of like your anybody here ever read their manual for their vehicle? Did you guys know before you ever move your cars in any way, you're supposed to walk around it and check like 30 things on it, and it's supposed to take you like 10 or 15 minutes? I'm pretty sure nobody does that, but you're supposed to do that according to the manual. Well, that's what a run book is. It's like as you're operating this system. So like my run books are, I'll put some of the things there that I do for like my run books. Hold on, let me see if I can find an example of mine. What does my run book look like? I need, what is that? Let me go see if I have. Doc, I think. Yeah, so yeah, I guess it's mine isn't really set for that, but start of run book might be start bare metal, startup, shutdown of the system, right? It would be things like I don't know. So within that would be startup of networking devices, startup of storage devices. So this would be the order of devices that start up too as well. So startup of storage devices, werewolf, startup, manager, so Infranode's startup, startup of storage devices, Infranode's startup, and then after we get Infranodes up, then it would be compute node. Right, so compute node startup, and then that's like the bare minimum start of like a run book, and then there's like check things and that kind of stuff. Julius Caesar said, how much is the demand for Linux SSAT? I think there's a lot. I personally think there's a lot. But then again, I find from our Discord for sure that I am overly optimistic about things, maybe. But no, what I think there's a good amount of demand for Linux admins to maintain things. There's a lot of companies that run Linux. We sometimes look at the actual jobs. I actually pull up jobs and we walk through them and stuff. Find the old recordings of that kind of stuff on there. Yeah, Fisherman said, tell Kano how much demand there is. Yeah, there's it's out there, guys. I think you guys can get in. Can I tell you something though, that like I think the thing that I probably would say about it that people might not like as much. Well, let me say the thing that people will like, and then I'll say the thing that people won't like. One, I think anybody can do it. I think any of you guys could do this stuff if you wanted to. I really do. I think you guys are smart enough. I think you're good enough. I think you gotta. But here's the part that I don't think most people are gonna like. I think you have to continuously, deliberately drive towards your goal of getting into Linux if you're somebody that wants to get into Linux. But like, for some people, and let me tell you guys a story. I heard this thing about a guy who he wrote a book on quitting work and writing books. That was literally what his book was about. And then he toured around and he had written some books, but then he wrote this book on quitting your job and writing. And people would always come up to him and say, I want to be a writer like you. And he's like, well, how much did you write today? And they go, well, nothing, I'm not a writer. And he goes, then you don't want to be a writer. Well, where I'm going with that is like, for a lot of guys, like it's got to be a deliberate drive towards getting the job. I know that it's like, I'm not getting paid for it, but you got to be doing it like 15 minutes in the morning. You got to make time for it, right? You want to, like, you got to, like, we see this in like all kinds of areas. People want to have all the rewards. People want to be like a world champion Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy, but they don't want to have fucked up hands from gripping and doing all the stuff it takes to be a world champion Jiu-Jitsu guy, right? Everybody wants to be that guy, but nobody wants to do the work to be that guy. It's not even that hard for us. It's just like a deliberate drive towards doing this stuff. And guys, I think there's all kinds of things that'll help you do that, right? Oh, you're getting pulled all over. I mean, yeah, well, you do get pulled over in a lot of places. Well, one of the big things about being a Linux admin is you're probably a problem solver if you're doing that type of work, or a Linux engineer. So people are going to try to make you do other things. But, as my buddy Jared will tell you guys when he comes to streams and when he talks on stuff, he will often tell people, I can do that for you, but that may not be an optimal use of my time. Let's go ahead and deconflict that with my manager. He loves doing stuff like that. Jared's got a whole bag full of stuff like that to say to people when they try to get him to do stuff that he doesn't think is a good use of his time. It's like a negotiation judo. Like he pulls out these different tricks and tips to do that. Yeah, Hayes, everybody wants some. Johnny Man, how's it going? Yeah, so what I was doing, guys, was I was telling the guys earlier that I kind of got approached by a friend, and he said, what would it take for me to build out something? What would it take for, because he's doing this stuff on the side now. He's retired. Well, he's not quite retired, but he got out of the Space Force. He did Air Force Academy for that matter, and then he did Space Force for a while, and then he got out, and now he's doing the intelligence work on the side. And he's like, I want to run some of these jobs and I want to do some of this stuff. What would it look like? And I'm like, well, it's funny because the program that he left is one of the programs that I just built three of their most recent supercomputers for. So I was like, well, if you want it to look kind of like what you just left. And he's like, yeah, let's make it kind of look like that. And I'm like, well, this is how I would do it. So that's kind of what we're doing there. Where's Ranger? Ranger's on the move. Also, it looks like somebody's knocked down his, I think he's been like putting his nose in that or something, because that's all knocked down right there. Anyways, yeah, so I'm not like working super hard tonight. We're just kind of hanging out and doing some of this stuff. And then I did most of that stuff that I kind of wanted to get started. A lot more people skills than anything. Yeah, that could be true. I would say 15 years ago, most Linux admins could probably just be sitting in a basement and never talk to anybody. But it's been it's been getting more like Linux. Maybe it's just because I've been getting higher and higher up as a Linux. Well, I'm a Linux engineer, but as far as titles go, but and it's really high performance compute engineer if we really care. But that being said, it seems like I do get pulled into more like planning stuff than I used to. But I do want to just become like, side. Julius Caesar said, what's the path to becoming a contractor? I'd say be really good at what you do and be able to prove. By the way, I would say the bar for contracting is higher than the bar for getting a job, because getting a job is proving to one group that you can do the work. Being a contractor is proving to each and every group every time that you could be somebody who can do that. So in my friend's case as a contractor, his thing was being in 04 in the Space Force. 04 is what, major? He retired. He resigned his commission as a major, so that's pretty high up. That's not super high. There's majors all over the place, but I'm saying it's pretty high for people outside the military. You know, that's like a 12-year run, so that's pretty good. We're going to draw something similar to this reference architecture over here, but we're going to use our node names and our setup, and this will become both our reference architecture, and then it'll actually become this thing here, which is called the, where'd it go? Network boundary drawing. So network boundary drawing will determine what devices need FIPS and what devices need SE Linux as well. Build out infra, access zone, management zone, SLRM head, werewolf head node. All right. So werewolf will have werewolf software DHCP configured, NFS configured, TFTP configured. I guess those could be lowercase c's. And then container images will be Rocky 9X. And the container images that we'll have, we will have one for each of these types. So we'll have a login, data transfer, we'll have SLRM head nodes, and SLRM DB. So these will be all of the types of nodes containers that we'll have, and then the space, right? The space ones will be there, and again, login will be FIPS and SE Linux. Data transfer will be FIPS, SE Linux, and all containers base 80% plus STIG score, which is probably fine for non-specific mission critical type stuff. Oh, you know what? Speaking of, we were just talking about. Somebody said we're children. Oh yeah, we're in science and technology. I just want to make sure we're in science and technology on both sides. Hold on, because I'm on Twitch and YouTube, and yeah, we're in science and technology. Okay, yeah. So we're doing science technology type stuff today. SLRM head node will have it'll be that. SLRM DB will have Maria DB STIG standard applied. All nodes base plus rel 9 STIG score. So all of them will be a base 80% on the rel 9. And then login, data transfer, SLRM DB, space compute. We strictly speaking don't need the one security thing that I mentioned, which is Apache. I don't know that we actually need the Apache ones unless we're running our own internal repos. We'd probably just keep them, just use it just to keep it around or whatever. So, STIG checklist provided in .ckl format. And maybe because his is a little smaller, we'll say like 2 days. 2 days of comprehensive training. 2 days of full 8-hour per day training. Hardware and preventative maintenance, hardware corrective maintenance. Yeah. Start of a run book, which is labs. And if I'm gonna train him for 2 days, I'd probably go ahead and just build out the training, and then probably just charge him for that. Which I wouldn't charge him for anything else, right? I told him, but if I had to spend 20 hours putting together training for everything, putting it together even would be kind of fun. I mean, I wouldn't be allowed to do it on stream or nothing because it's a skiff environment, but I would be able to build it for him. And a lot of times what we do is we build stuff and then we send it into the skiff and it gets approved to connect. And then once it gets through connection and gets connected to there's a certain network that they call it, then they have to do all their configurations and stuff. And then a guy like me can't touch it again unless I have a certain security clearance, which my top secret is inactive right now, so I probably wouldn't be able to go in there. Everything else would have to be hands-on by somebody that has those, accesses or whatever in their system. People that are trusted on their system to do that. So, infra virtualized. So, yeah, so that'll be infra virtualized will be Proxmox, right? And then down here, compute virtualized will also be Proxmox. Some of these nodes, so data transfer nodes, also need to be, they also need to have the OpenIBD and the Lustre client as well, because so the whole purpose in this drawing here of the data transfer nodes, they need to have access to, well, okay, so real quick to show you, it depends on the speed of what you need, but data transfer nodes, if they can send it out fast enough, depends how fast this pipe is, they can either access, as this shows, the storage arrays via the normal cluster network, but that's going to be a bottleneck here if this is a slower network than this one. So what a lot of times data transfer nodes will have access to this high performance network, and they'll pull it off at that high speed, and this will be the bottleneck, which is, I think, much more preferred. The up, or what you would call like the vertical pathing out of the system, is slower than the horizontal pathing within the system, right? I mean, that's, look at that however you want, I guess, but that's that. Oh, and then we're using just the NIST 800-223 standard. I'll just link this to you guys that want it. This is just the standard publication for supercomputing. Like if you just are like, Scott, I want to know a bunch of things about supercomputing, or I want to get into high performance computing, I would tell you to get in here. Hey, Akshanya, how's it going? Is it morning for you over there? It's night for us. But one of the things I always tell you guys is, how do we learn things? Well, we come down here, and look at all these other places to go look at stuff. But then you come down here, and there should be, I don't really have it on this one as much, but they do have all the references. A lot of times they'll have the glossary, right? And the glossary will be all the terms. I don't really see that here, but this is still this is a pretty good doc for what it is. There's a lot of heft to it, a lot of information. Oh, look at Ranger. Oh, Ranger dog. Okay. Access zone, login, werewolf containers. We may not use Open On Demand. If he doesn't want his users to have like a web portal and just have them log in, we might be able to do that. Yeah, HPC can be, the data bandwidth back to the storage can be a big part of it. All of his workloads are going to be very small and kind of protracted compared to like big actual working runs. He's just going to build and test things in this environment and then be able to use them for part of his consulting work or whatever. So it may almost convince me, you know, if I end up working with him enough, it may almost convince me to just do like I might almost just go get my security clearance again, especially if he's got a contract where they'll cover it and then he just has to sponsor me. I would absolutely do that again, because like a security clearance is pretty valuable. It's a pretty valuable thing in America. I don't know about other countries how their security clearances work, but in the US for sure, if you have a clearance, it's very valuable for a job. So you want to if you can hold on to one. Like I never got mine didn't get revoked by anything other than the passage of time, you know, because my TS was active from 2009 until for sure 2019. It would have still been active. Now I'd have to go get it renewed, because after 10 years, when you do it, you just have to show all the places you've moved and lived and everything. And then you just have to show that you were like gainfully employed, not like living under a bridge or something like that. So there's that ranger dog. He's like Sisyphus, right? The myth of Sisyphus, right? Albert Camus. It's we must consider that ranger is content. So, all right. It's valuable there, but it's impressive. You get the impression it matters more in the USA. That's probably true. That's what I mean. If you're going to be in government stuff, if you're not in government stuff, I mean, I could have went my whole career without a clearance. I only had my clearance because I worked at Lockheed, and Lockheed was a great company, great place to work. But they did close down that facility in 2013, so my options were like move to Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, or go work on the F-35 program at Luke Air Force Base, and I wasn't going to do that, so I just I had no problem with it. I wasn't intending to do that. All right. Yeah, he might not need people to have open on-demand access, so we might not build that. But I do have a node in my cluster. Oh, these never came back, huh? Well, that's fun. Let's see if we can't get these things back working. I thought they'd automatically connect. They did not. There we go. All right. Oh yeah, there's government jobs. Yeah, there's government jobs around. There's a lot of. I mean, I tell guys all the time. There's a lot of places that people don't think to look. Like there's school districts. Hospitals typically have huge networks that need to be worked on, and even if you're not 100% on the Linux side, they probably have Linux in their environment, and you just got to get on somewhere, right? Like get on a network operations center, get on somebody that's doing some of this stuff. Julius Caesar said your next class starts in September. I'm not 100% sure when the next course is going to start. We have these are the old dates. The Linux admin course doesn't really have anybody doing it anymore. And you say, what do you mean? People are still showing up? Oh yeah, we still have like 20 or 30 people show up, but nobody's doing the discussions. And that, like, so you guys know, if you're not doing the discussions, then I don't consider you part. If we get to the end and you do all the other work, but you haven't done the discussions, like I'm not gonna, the certs and all that stuff, we have these cool little certificates that we make, that it's not gonna matter, right? And you say, well, why would you draw such a hard line on that? Well, because there's value to taking what you have worked with and learned and distilling it down onto a page. There's value to that. There's a value of learning things in like a community of other academics. And you say, well, how do you know that? Well, I mean, that's like the formation of all schools and colleges through all of like known human history, right? Like I don't have to be like a stuffy college professor for 17 years to know that. That's like the people that wanted to learn stuff used to all band together and do math and philosophy and art and all those type of things because that's what they wanted to do, and that's the same thing here. Anyways, my point in saying all that is not to say that our course is that important. It's just that's the standard of our course, right? Is you have to do these things, you have to work through it. Anyway, so to answer that question, the course is free, Julius Caesar. I've never charged anybody anything for our course. Our courses are free. You just go in Discord and just start doing them. But the problem is it takes a lot of time. It's like 8 to 10 hours a week of your time. So, I mean, okay, I can't say it's completely free because you got to spend your time, but I don't charge anybody anything for them. You guys can jump in the Discord and ask. Has Scott ever charged you anything? The only guy that charges anybody anything is Fisherman Guy Bro, and that's only if you ask him something. If you ask him something, then he charges you. I'm just kidding. He's not that bad. But Fisherman has been back, which I kind of like. No, you guys, if you go in the course, you go to Beginner Start here. There's a recording of everything. Here's all our course books. Have you guys seen our course books? Let me pull these up. So the guys in our community have put together these really awesome books. Let me pull them both up for you guys real quick here. And they look like this. And you could print the whole thing out. You could just come right here and hit print and turn it into a PDF if you wanted. But this is what the course is about. This is our security engineering course right here. And then this is our Linux admin course right here. These are the topics from the course. 16 weeks. And we're in week, this Saturday is, we're in system hardening. It's a fun one. But to answer your question, hold on. So to answer the question for Julius Caesar, I am not going to probably start another course this year. We'll probably start a new one in 2026. And the reason is because I don't have anybody doing it right now. And you say, yeah, but people are showing up. I mean, we have 130 people that said they're coming. And then like 20 to 30 show up, but nobody's doing the work. So I don't know. I feel really bad for like, there may be 1 or 2 people that are like actually putting it in the work and trying it. But I just, I'm not seeing that because again, no discussions are happening. So you say no discussions at all? Let's go look. Let's go look if there's any discussions. Here's our course discussion posts. Here's our admin posts for unit 11, right? So let's go to admin course. And here's unit 11. There's maybe 2 people, 3 people, maybe. Where's another 11? 11 had we're in discuss. Sorry, that was a few weeks ago. We're in 12. Hold on, we're done with 12 because 12 was last week. I just took the week off. That's one person talking to themselves. Yeah. So anyways, we're not doing it again this year, right? Because like it's too much of my time. If there were 30 people doing it, I would do it. I would start it at the end of this one, but that's just not the way life works. So it's unfortunate, but I mean, I would rather do this. That's fun for my friends for free than that, right? Which again, like I would like to help everybody get on Linux if they wanted to, but I literally can't make anybody do anything, right? I can let people say all of the time that they want to do stuff, but it doesn't, there's an old saying, nothing you say is as important as what you do, right? Or another way to say it is when people show you who they are or when people show you what their work ethic is, believe them. That's the same kind of thing, right? And I'm not trying to shit on anybody. I'm just saying literally only one person's doing the course anymore as far as my standards are concerned, which is the standard of the course, right? That's not me being a dick. That's just what the course is. However, that being said, anybody could go do the course right now at any time and just work through them. You just wouldn't get the cool little certificate that Treasure put together. So, yeah. But the course won't start again. The admin course won't start again. The security engineering course, we just had 5 people finish that. I think it's 5 people. I gotta check. And they did their presentations. You gotta do presentations at the end. You don't have to give the presentation, but you do have to put the presentation together. Again, it's another one of those standards, right? If you wanna go through it, you gotta actually, pick up your gear and go through it, right? You can't pretend. So I'll move this over here, Ranger. Oh, look at that dog. So, all right. Anyway, so yeah, we'll probably start the course again, maybe early next year. Maybe January or something. If I was hard pressed, I'd tell you maybe January of 2026 would be when we start that one again. Maybe we'll rewrite it. But I am doing an automation one this year. There will be an automation one coming up too. Revisualize. So in the question was how many people have taken the course and gotten a job in the last few years. Well, we've only done the course one one other time before this, right? We started last year, and then into this year we did a second round. But since we started Prolog about 11 years ago, I don't know, a couple hundred people I've watched get jobs in Linux that didn't have it before. And I would say, like, people in our Discord, even before our Discord kind of blew up last year, I would say, I don't know, in Discord, I've probably watched a couple hundred people get jobs from talking to other people and then networking around and that kind of stuff. Maybe in the 200 range over the course of 11 years. So, I mean, you know, it's not gonna be great for everybody, but for the people that it works for, it's pretty good, you know. So yeah, I mean, people are definitely doing stuff. I mean, one of my brothers got into Linux back in 2016. All he ever did was come to our group. He has no college degrees. He has nothing. I think now he has like a CKA, but he runs OpenShift for his company, right? And he's the highest level of infrastructure engineer they have. He doesn't even. He barely has a college. I mean, he has a GED, right? But that's the thing, is like, in this space, I try to tell you guys, it doesn't matter what you have. It matters what you can build and do. Like, if you guys ever see my resume, when I pull up my little fake resume, like my little Het Tannis resume, it's my exact resume. It's just all, you know, de-identified and stuff. Not that you couldn't go look all that stuff up on LinkedIn if you wanted to, right? It's easy to know what my name is. It's all over the place. But my point in saying all that is, what was I saying about my brother? Yeah, my brother doesn't have anything on there. But same thing with me. Like, I lead with like the things I know how to do. I don't lead with my degrees and stuff, unless we're talking, like, unless I was going for like a dean position at my college or something, right? If I wanted to be a dean, then I would lead with my academic shit. But since I want to be an engineer my whole life, then I lead with the stuff I know how to build and do, right? Because that's our value. That's the thing that's worth something. We visualize. You said, I'm just looking at the job market right now and trying to figure out what to do to stay employable for the next 10 years. Well, I can tell you guys this, you know, working in Linux and POSIX style systems, the fundamental job duties that we do to keep these systems running have not changed in 50 years. Now, have they spackled more stuff on top? Sure. But the CD, PWD, LS, reboot, shutdown -H now, and like the different values of that, and how, oh, that's changed very little, guys. In my lifetime, that's changed very little. In my 20-something years of doing this, it has changed very little as well. So, you guys, where I'm going with that is, like, the Linux is like a nice base function to start on, and then go into like data analytics, or then go into like monitoring with Grafana, then go into like, I think that Linux is like the base system for most of this stuff. Almost all the stuff up here that we're doing is Linux based. Almost all this stuff. The networking is going to be, that's going to take, but networking, I mean, you should go spend a little time with like a GS3 or whatever. GNS3? I think it's GNS3. Let's look that up real quick. Hold on. Yeah, it's GNS3. You guys can go work on stuff right now if you wanted to in networking, right? Just like you can work on stuff in Linux. I'm always showing you guys Linux, Killer Coda. I think Killer Coda is the best place on the web to spend your time if you're trying to get into this. This guy Scott will teach you Ansible if you want. HashiCorp. I haven't worked on HashiCorp stuff in a while, but there's all kinds of good stuff out here that people want to show you how to do for free. All kinds of stuff. And they got all of our labs, which I want to say we're up around 70 something now. Yeah, we're pretty close to 70 something. 72, is that right? Yeah, I think that's right, 72 right there. And then we have more from, like, Fisherman's got some that are up there. Yeah, I'm a big fan of you guys just working on this stuff and learning how to get in there. And then, honestly, the hardest thing seems to be for people to get a shot, right? Like, if you can get into network operations center, security operations, any of those things, I would tell you to go do it. Revisualize, you said you're a bit pessimistic about the future, employment and rapid advancement of Gen AI and AI agents, or maybe imposter syndrome. Well, I'll tell you, we've had a lot of functionality. So I know AIs do it better and faster and smarter, and they can draw pictures of people with 16 fingers and shit. I know AI can do all that stuff better than us, but we've had the base logic functionality of like turning nodes off and turning nodes on in like real time with like Stoneth and all these other types of logical things to like fail over and fail out and fail back and all these types of things that can happen to recover systems for like 20 years, maybe even more than 20 years. We've had the capability of automating all of this stuff, but we never have. At the end of the day, when a component of a system fails and we take that system and fix it, right? We pull the component out, put a new component in, bring it back up. We have never, in my whole time doing this career, allowed the system just to automatically take the load back. We do checkout and we do all this other stuff. And maybe AI will come along and do some of that stuff faster. Sure, maybe. But it's been my experience, even though we've had the capabilities forever, we can flip it back and still have a person do that last part, if that kind of makes sense. It's kind of like how, like, all this self-driving car stuff, right? Of course self-driving cars are possible. And you say, how do you know that? Well, because we've had, like, airplanes that could land themselves for 20 plus years now. So I'm pretty sure landing an airplane's probably worse. Oh, you guys do know what the hard thing is about cars, right? It's not reading the shit on the road. It's reading what the other bullshit drivers are doing around you. By the way, that's probably the same problem most of us have on the road. We're driving along just fine. It's just all the other people doing idiot stuff, right? So anyways, so yeah, I'm not super worried about AI taking your job if you're like keeping systems running, if that kind of makes sense. At least I've literally never even thought about it like happening. So even if the things are pretty smart, it's one of those things that's still like almost like a person has to pull the trigger on it. Even if the things, you know, figuring everything else out, there's just, even till today, like there's just too many mistakes in it. Like there's too many things that are like the code generation and those kind of things. They look really good, but they don't do all the things. They do most of the things, but not all of the things, right? So, all right. As I say that, my closed captioning shuts down and my computer stops doing that for me. That's being fed back to an AI, in case you guys were wondering. That's going up into Azure for Microsoft, right? So that's, and by the way, you'll see it sometimes. It'll correct things. Like you'll see words come out, and then I'll say something later that like clarifies what I meant, and then you'll see it go back and change earlier words. So if you guys ever watch the closed captioning, it's not just running and set. It'll change old words back. Some of you guys have seen that before, probably. Yeah, use AI to figure out what to do to stay employable. I would tell you guys just get in there and keep working on this stuff. And to that point, right? Like, what are the things that, like, and this whole course right here, which again, this is all up on YouTube. You can watch all the YouTubes for all this. These things are like how the goal of this Linux admin course isn't to teach you Linux. It's kind of like you're probably already somebody who plays with Linux. This is more to align you to the job. Because again, our goal, the stated goal of the Professional Linux Users Group, it's rolling right across the screen there, is to take people that are hobbyists or people that do this for fun, that maybe go, well, hey, I don't get punished enough doing this every day. I want to make money at this too. And people pay you really good for this stuff, guys, in case you didn't know. I've often joked that, like, I can't believe they pay me what they do to do something I would just be sitting at my computer messing with all day anyways. I'd literally be sitting here playing around the same way all day around some other job if I didn't have this job, right? And then we were joking on Friday night, we were all talking about, like, how much of your day do you spend doing whatever? I spend 100% of my day like this. Okay. 100% of my technical day is spent here. I do have to send emails and shit, and that's just through a web browser, which doesn't matter how I get to a web browser, does it? I mean, you know, I use mostly Chrome, but I do also have Firefox and Edge open as well. And if you ask why about that, it's because I have so many things that I have to log into that I hate jumping between them. So I just have different browsers for everything. I know. But I mean, if you guys have ever had like a Microsoft Office connection and then you try to switch between them, it's just super annoying. I don't do it in the same browser. So Actually, what are you talking about? AI? Is that, yeah? AIs are really good. The guys I know that are using AI the best, I guess if we were to call it that, or the guys I know that are using it professionally the best, are the ones that are using the AI as like a little gopher. Like, hey, set this up for me, and then they'll come back through and edit all the things that are wrong and all the links and assumptions that were not correct, and then they'll get it set for their environment the way that they want or whatever. That's at least, actually, to your point about it being like an intern level, that's where I see like the engineers excel the most. They're like, okay, give me a framework of this thing in Ansible. Okay, I get it. Well, this isn't right. This isn't pointing to the right things. It assumed the wrong things based on some other thing I had written, and then they go and they fix it, and it's good. And that only took them 20 minutes as opposed to like maybe 3 hours writing the stuff themselves. So it did save them time, but it was not ready out of the box. And it's the same thing I tell you guys all the time. Like, if the stuff we did in engineering was easy, if the stuff that we did was easy, the salesperson would set it up. If the stuff that we did worked out of the box, the salesperson would set it up and leave. They wouldn't need us engineers. They need us because there's differences and configurations and things that have to be mulled over about a system. Could AI do that? Maybe. Can AI take all the constraints in from a system and figure out how it's like or different to another system? You know, it's I don't see it being there yet, but maybe. Yeah, AI is just. Chris, have you ever seen the best AI like ML type thing ever? I'll show you guys the best one I've ever seen. Hold on. The ML training, you guys ever seen this? This is machine learning right here. This is like the best one I've ever seen. This is your machine learning system. Yep, you just pour the data into this big pile of linear algebra, and then you collect the answers on the wrong side. So you guys all know like linear regression, all the different linear algebra stuff that you can do. What if the answers are wrong? Then you just stir the pile around until they start looking right. And then his alternate text is the pile gets soaked with data and starts to get mushy over time, so it's technically recurrent. Yeah, if you guys don't know, if you don't follow XKCD, it's a really popular thing for engineering. But this is kind of like, yeah, this is machine learning. That's all it is right there. Just pour the data, bunch of stuff. We don't know what all the stuff is. Yeah, little Bobby drop tables. Little Bobby tables. And I hope you've learned a lesson about sanitizing your data. Yeah, we love XKCD around here. Yeah, I sometimes give those as gifts to engineers I know. The XKCD what if. Because those are great. Like, engineers love mulling over that stuff. Z-Love said, walk the walk while networking and put some time in. Time on some people's calendars after you reach out. Yeah. You just need another standard. Yeah. Yeah, so this is, I mean, we spent most of the beginning of today building this little doc out. So you guys that were here saw me open a blank. I opened a blank page of note. This was a blank Word doc when we started, right? We pulled in some reference architecture, and then we started to build out hardware that would look similar. Some of this I'm going to scope down because that's just too much price for what I want to build. One of my friends is building out a skiff, and he was like, Scott, what do you think it would take? And I said, you know, I had said at the party that night, and like did some quick math in my head and said, I don't know, 30K. This right here is probably just quick math on it, probably closer to like 60K. Yeah, at least 60K. So I'm going to probably scope some of these down to some smaller versions of these things if we could. We may even give up InfiniBand for now and then go to that later, because for the base workloads he needs, he could probably go over 10 gig Ethernet, and then we can work down from there, and we would save some cost with this in mind too. This is what the bare minimum next version of a system would look like, or this is the system we would build out from there, right? And we didn't even talk, I don't even have containerization on this. We do have containerization inside of Werewolf technically, but when I say containerization, I mean like Kubernetes containerization and stuff that can burst up into cloud workflows, which again we can't do now because of the skiff area. But there could be workflows that they're like, well, we could do this out in the cloud. Can you build us that model? And we're like, yeah, we can do anything. We're experts, right? That's what we do. Chris, you said the switch is the odd man out. Which one? This one? So this is our management switch. The switch might be a little high for our management side. We might go a little lower on that one. And then also these, we don't need 2 of these that big. We might do better with a couple. We could go a different route and go JBot. Actually, you know what? That may be a better route. Let me go look at what one of these looks like. Because to first start this, we could probably get away with one of these guys. Let's see what these look like. Let's look. We could maybe go with one of these power vaults. Let's see what these guys look like. Power vault, and let's see what, because we could do direct attached storage with them or do network storage with them and get a pretty good speed as well. Let's see what this looks like. Well, that doesn't save us anything. All right, no, that one's not going to save us anything, but that is one that we use between a couple of our different nodes for speed and redundancy and such. So maybe that's a little higher end than even this, but we'll go ahead and scope these down probably a little bit and work from there. So we don't have to go too crazy to start. But this was just the things that we were looking at on the kind of initial setup. Rack cables, elevation drawings we would draw out. Elevation drawing and system interconnects. Right, so how do the systems actually cable to each other? That's another one that we kind of draw typically. Compare the switch bandwidth to storage memory. Oh yeah. Well, the storage, we could upgrade the storage memory for sure, but that's going to change the price of things. Yeah. Yep. So we'll play with that. That's something I was just kind of noodling on a little bit. And where else did we go? All right. Where are we at here? Man, we're over 2 hours of me talking. That's probably why my throat's all jacked up. Let's go to let's take a quick little break here. Let's go to, where's my little hourglass at? I'll leave this spinning over here. I need to put the do all the Linux up there. That's one of my favorite. That's our little do all the Linux site, right? We'll put that up there too. But let's go with take a break. Take a break, walk around, take yourself a little 10-minute break. We'll leave, I don't know, somebody's in charge until I get back. But if you guys have questions, ask them down in the Discord typically. You can ask them here too, but it might just get lost. I'm gonna go take a little walk, stretch my legs out, get some more water, and then I'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more until the wife gets home. what am I missing in here? Anything good going on? Wife said she's heading home, so I don't have too much longer on here. Yeah, Ranger's definitely down there. Where is he? Look at that dog. And the sun's going down. He must be... He had to have been the one that knocked this down. Because it's literally only me and my wife here and him. So he had to have knocked that down, but... I don't know how he would have done that. Because, like, the blind's all jacked up over there. So... Yeah, I'm back. Let's go. Put my camera back on. We're technically on break. We're not working super hard right now. Yeah, we're on break. This will be and we're loosely going off of this, but this will be, whoops, no. Be sloppy, but this will be, we can actually drop the actual firewall device in there if we want to. That's fine. We can go get a picture of an actual firewall and drop it in there if we want. I'm just trying to think what that's going to look like. We'll keep drawing it out. I typically always start my connections on the left and then I build everything down and to the right of them for the most part, but that's like my standard. I guess people can draw things however they want, but that tends to be the way that I end up kind of thinking about them in my head. And then a lot of times when you do start drawing, Excalidraw always takes that whole left side, which is really super annoying. So then you gotta like refigure out where everything is. So I think that's pretty good for there. What's I think we always ask this down the Discord. Let me pop the Discord up so you guys have it if you need it. But if you don't know, there's a Discord. You guys can hang out down there. We're at like 4,000 and some change people now. So let's see if it'll actually say. Says it somewhere. Maybe it says it up at the top. I don't know. There's like 4,000 and some change people, so it's pretty good. I think it shows it on. Maybe it's members right there. Where's that? Yeah, 4,047. So that's pretty good. We're not like the biggest Linux group on the internet or anything, but we're pretty good size. And we're probably I think we're the only tech group that I know of that's goal is to get people into doing Linux. So, I'm not saying you have to hang out with us, but find somebody that's doing the stuff that you guys are interested in, right? If it's security, find somebody that's doing security all the time. We do a fair amount, but that's not our number one focus. Our number one focus is in the Linux systems, right? Although we touch all the other pieces as needed. What else? I guess DSA Stigs were also one of our references. We'll call that one of our base references right there. There's so many other things that we were also using or doing, but we can at least get started with those basic components. we'll let the timer finish up. But yeah, if anybody's got any questions, let me know. I think the wife's home actually. I just found out. All right. Where's our time at? Well, that's good because it looks like we were on an ad break anyways. Let me knock that off. Get that out of there. Put this back over here to spinning. Let's go check our home lab out here a little bit. What? What's werewolf doing? Looks like it's running. Looks like we have NFS going. NFS. Looks like we've got werewolf going here. Oh, by the way, if you ever I do that. I do that because I'm so used to that. If you ever needed to know these ports and you couldn't find them, you just take the N off and it won't force the numeric. So then, see, my system doesn't know what 9873 is, but 9873 is werewolf, so we knew that. SSH, NFS. We knew all of these were open for what we needed. Okay, so we knew that all these things were running and doing the things that we wanted them to, so that's good. Let's go check. The other day we downloaded an Alma 9 and then also a Tumbleweed, and we actually set them on a couple of nodes, and then we never even finished getting the nodes set up the other day. I think I was just waffling around and messing around and not even really paying full attention to what was going on, but there were a couple of nodes in here. I don't see them there, so I think they're down here. They're in the hammer environment. Were they? No, there it is. There's Alma 1 and I don't see the Tumbleweed. Maybe I never bothered to put the Tumbleweed on. I don't know. Here's our containers. Tumbleweed. Oh, we put hammer 5 for Tumbleweed. Okay. So we could see that real quick. Go look over here. Hammer 25. So he's off. And I forget the exact behavior that these were all having, but I do know that they're probably going to need to have the Dracut installed on them. So I might have to go look at how to do that on any one of these. So let's go look at hammer 25 here. And the container name is Tumbleweed, so we might look at that. And we might say, see if anybody's got a nice little write-up on it. So can we do that? That's a funny one there. Oh wow, 2 different raids at once. How's it going, guys? Hey, so both Shy Hat and Oreo Bite. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you guys. What you guys? That's funny. Two back-to-back raids like in the same second. What we're doing here, what we were doing tonight is I was building out. Let me just show you guys. I started with a blank page earlier today, and we started to draw out. So I have a friend who used to work for the Air Force and then the Space Force, and then he just left the service, and now he's contracting back with them, and he does a bunch of intelligence work and other stuff like that. And he asked me at a party this weekend up in Colorado Springs, he said, hey Scott, I kind of want to do a smaller version of some of these workflows that happen on these different clusters that I used to work with. And I said, well, I happen to know where he worked in the Space Force, and I happen to have done work for some of the same projects that he was on. So I said, well, I could draw out a similar system that's smaller with the same type of architecture. So what we did was we went to this reference architecture. This comes from NIST 800-223, which is, I think I closed it over here, but it's the supercomputing reference architecture, right? And then you come down here and I started to build out some hardware. Like we just went and found hardware and stuff that was similar to what we've built on bigger systems, but we tried to scale it down for pricing reasons and stuff, trying to keep it kind of reasonable. Then we got down here to like software, what the software bill of materials would look like for this as far as like what we need to build out. Then we did like, what's the build out going to look like? There's going to be some infrastructure, virtualization, probably some Proxmox on it because it's a smaller version, so not everything is bare metal. And then like what the management zone would look like, all again based on that reference architecture. And then we came down here to like what the security compliance was going to look like and how we were going to do the security compliance, what training might look like in that environment. And then I just started putting some reference architectures down as we kind of went. And that's kind of what we were working on. So hip hop hack. So that's the general idea of what we were working on. And then kind of I took a little break and came back and we've just been messing around. So now what we're doing is, you know, we've got all the monitoring in the home lab, right? I've always got the monitoring up. We've always got the Ranger cam of what my dog Ranger's doing, which is not too much. He's just kind of laying around. Got our security view into our environment to see if anything's wrong with our outbound connections and people trying to connect in to take over our stuff. We also have another one of these that I normally have up, which is logs and apps. And typically I show you guys also, these are all the people in the last, 6 hours that have tried to get into our system. These are all the people that have gotten themselves locked out forever in the last 6 hours trying to log into our system because they found an open SSH port. And this is also the passwords they tried. They did all these, well, it doesn't show us the passwords, but I can tell you when they're doing Pi, they're trying Raspbian or Pi-hole or, all the various passwords that were ever default for Pi were probably being tried here before this IP address got banned forever, right? So we've got intrusion detection here, intrusion prevention, lockout of systems, and then, all that kind of stuff. So we have a fair amount of, we do a lot of what like we call blue teaming around here, right? We do a lot of the protection of the Linux systems, but there's a fair amount of people that like to play red here as well. Although we don't specifically we don't sit around and do hack the box or nothing like that. That's not what we kind of do. Well, I think I heard that the wifey's home. But I can't imagine the wifey's home because if she was, the dog would have moved. Ranger will always get up when my wife gets home because he always thinks he's going to get a treat. So, all right, we'll put this back to spinning here though while we go back and work in the environment. So that's what I was kind of doing when you guys raided in. So you guys are welcome to hang out. Hopefully this stuff's somewhat useful to you. We are looking in the home lab systems right now for I had put these other Alma Linux 9 and Tumbleweed, which is a version of SUSE, right, on our systems. I put these on last week before I went out of town, and now we're hopping back in. And what was I doing? I was just looking at something over here. I've lost my whole train of thought. Could have sworn I had. I don't see it. Could have sworn I had that DraCut thing open, but. I'm okay with using it. I just want to know if they have anything special that I need to think about when I build it. Alright. There's an official release here. All right. Is it container in it? Oh, Oh, container exec. That's what it is. Okay. So now we're in there, and they should have. Yeah, they have zipper. So zipper. Oh, install. I don't use a whole lot of that. Let's see if they already have Dracut on here. It's possible that they do. Yeah, let's see what their install kind of looks like here. This is a chroot jail inside of a container inside of Werewolf, right? Inside of our system. So it's layers deep. Figure out how to build this. I have not used this. Let me see if I can just build on the system. We do want the kernel though. Well, we don't need the kernel in that, so that's fine. We might need the headers for the kernel. They might not be downloaded, so we might need to install some things for this to work. But what we're going to do is build its own init RAM-FS so that when the image comes up, it starts. I think that's why it's not starting. So we're going to give it a try. Yeah, so we might need. Let's see if there's kernel headers in here. Or sometimes it's like kernel devil. Yeah. Because if you don't have that, for the kernel that you're on, it won't work. So let's see. Yeah. Also, I think all right. Let's give it a special name. Let's see if it'll install that. All right. So we'll let that build. We got to run sync user, so it'll push it to all of our containers. That's fine. It's not a big deal. We do need to remember this, though. So, we open up our OneNote, or Notepad++, right? Come over here. More readable. Drop that out of the way. All right, so let's go to camera 25. See, he's using Dracut, but I don't think one was built inside of there, so that wasn't going to start. And then his boot, so here on his kernel args, we need to set his kernel arg I've set kernel args in here before. It's a lot like this, right? Now he's already set that way, so he's already set correctly this way. Where's that? We need to give him that kernel arg. So since I can't remember how to do it, and since I can't see my notes here, we can set the container, we can change that kind of stuff. Let's go over here and go Rocky, or Werewolf. Kernel. Kernel command line. I don't want to override kernels, I want to do command line. Set the boot management right here, alright, how it boots. But we already have that part set. We just need to set the what it's pointing to. We don't need container shell right now. We don't need to do that. We've got that part done. Got that part done as well. That should be fine. Let's try this. We might need this. Actually, we can try. Let's try that whole thing. Let's see what it looks like with their. I'm interested if they have their own drag cut on here as well. Nah, but oh. Didn't we just... Am I losing my mind? Weren't we just in this container? Like, weren't we just in this container a few seconds ago? And didn't that just do that? What the hell's going on here? Am I losing my mind? Yeah, we were just doing zipper right there. Oh, why am I so dumb? Excuse me. Man, let's see if they have... I'm curious if that's there. Probably not in their main repos if it were. Probably have to add the werewolf repos for that one. But I am curious to see if we can... Yeah, I didn't think that was going to be there. But let's try that anyways. Yeah, alright, we don't have that module fit. That's fine. I'm not really super worried about that because we already have the other part set. Alright. So, false exit, we didn't change anything, so we just leave. And then we don't mind that it failed to execute because we weren't trying to save that container anyways. And then we're gonna do wctl. Oh man, I gotta go look at my other notes. Hold on, I've got other notes for this. Hold on. Where are my notes on node? When I set kernel arguments. I guess I can go. Well, okay. There's another way to set this since I can't remember how to do it that way. Alright, so we're going to go down to hammer 25. And then down here under the. Well, I see an option for his command line. Maybe that's not going to do what I want. All right, I do gotta find it. Give me a second here. I gotta find this config. My stig process for nodes. That's not the one that I used. Okay. There it is. I'm trying to find a specific command that is like the one that I want, so that I can then modify the command to be the right one for what I want. I just can't find an example. I know I have one somewhere. Bed. Yeah, revisualize, that's fine. Yeah, we don't take attendance around here. You guys are welcome to hang out as long as you need. Let me see if I can find this thing. There's containers. Setting the kernel. I don't want to set the kernel version. I want to set the kernel parameters, the kernel command line parameters, which are discovery, undef. That's kind of what I want to do, but I don't want to undef everything. I only want to undef. Really? Nope, there's nothing in here. About profiles so much. This is not an overlay situation. We just want to change the kernel command line. There's our kernel args. Set all those things, no problem. Kernel args. I swear this is where we were just looking. It did not do it for us. Good with all that stuff. Hold on. IPMI. We're fine with that, except we want to set the don't want to wipe disks, don't want to do any of that stuff. Changing templates. I swear I have this somewhere in one of my docs. I just don't remember where I have it. What if I have it in the stick process? Hold on. It's gonna really bug me when I find this. Oh, damn it, is that? So there's our defaults there with the kernel. And only on that one do I want it to behave differently. So I'm almost just looking for it out of principle now because I don't know where it is in my in my notes, and that's bugging me a lot. That's bugging me a whole lot. Just looking here. I got nothing, guys. I got nothing. I literally can't remember this effing command. Trying to find even where I put my notes for the command. I can't remember where that is. Yeah. It's not even in any of my notes. Alright. Well, thankfully, since the wife's here, I can use her as an excuse for me to get off of here. But yeah, I don't know. I'll find the command. I'll drop it in Discord when I find it. But it's basically like undeffing the kernel args and then setting your own override for kernel args. And I literally can't find an example of it. I don't see an example. I'm pretty sure that we had set that before. But you know what, for fun, we'll go ahead and restart that node anyways, just to see how he builds. Make sure that he builds. And we'll start him up anyways, just for fun. Just to see. Yeah. but we didn't do the kernel. I wanted to do the kernel override and point it to the other init ramfs that we had made, but no, we'll see. We'll see what happens. There's this old saying in engineering: one test is worth 1,000 expert opinions. So we can sit around and argue all day if it's going to work, or we can just turn the thing on and see, right? So we changed over. So it's going to work on all this. It's going to know that it's Hamburg 25. It's going to know its right image, but then it's going to go to download its init ramfs and its kernel, and it's going to die. It's not even going to start. So that's what we're trying to find. And I know as soon as I get offline, I'm going to find the damn answer to this, and that's going to really piss me off. So I know I have it. All right. Bootable device, huh? Oh, wait a minute, that's something else. That's a different problem. That's a different problem. This is new. This is the new behavior. This is unrelated to the kernel we just built because it can't even see the DHCP. But nothing should be wrong on here. So let's come back over here. We're going to watch the tail to see if that starts up. See if it all will go. Do what we want it to. Kernel args. There we go. That's part of it. That's a pretty good little AI overview there for that. That is part of it, what we need. That was definitely going slower than normal. For that boot process is just, man, should not be taking this long to boot. Got the container's good, or well, the container's set up now. We'll make that thing reboot all the way, and then we're gonna go set our kernel args while we're waiting. Kernel args. Yeah, kernel args. We're gonna give it the default. So what we had in here, just captures real quick. Look at it. It's gonna be all this for him. Where'd that go? And we're gonna take all these, right? And then we're going to boot from. Oh no, it'll be kernel. Boot. And then is that right? No, that's the oh, what the hell was that? Not the. It's not the. Damn it. But it wasn't just tumbleweed image. It was right here. It was right there. What do we actually call it? Yeah, that's what we called it right there. There we go. Oops. Yeah. So he's gonna try to boot that way, as opposed to like any of these other nodes that we're just gonna boot with whatever their base image was. So okay. Now, anytime you make a change in there, you gotta do an overlay build. That's just a thing inside of Werewolf. And then we're gonna reboot this box. So we're just gonna force that thing to shut down. In fact, I don't know why that thing's not shutting down or doing the things it needs to, but it's almost like that whole network's jacked. That should be fine. Alright, let's come back over here. Let's watch the hammer box boot and see what happens. See what we get. Okay. Why am I getting notifications? Oh, he's definitely down, so why is he unable to go down? We could go to that actual machine and shut down the VM from the actual system if we need to. I don't do that very often, but we could. I don't remember how. Oh, we do a list and then we turn them off, I think. Go find the Halo 25. There it is. This power state is running. So we gotta figure out how to turn his power state to reboot. Yeah, I don't remember how to reboot him. I haven't been in here command line on this guy in a long time. I think I got it right here though. That was when we were doing our checks. I could have sworn I had one that actually did reboot him. One of my we don't want to reboot the whole box, we just want to get that one out of the way. So XE command. Oh, well there we go, we just need to know his name. And then if we know his name, Oh, I might have to do the power state. I thought there was a... shut down. Yeah, I think I had to do shutdowns and turn them back on before. Apparently that's not going down without us rebooting everything, so that's fun. I haven't seen that error before, but maybe, I don't know, maybe something's going on in there that we don't know about. I mean, the box is down. It never came up with that kernel, so probably have to schedule a time to reboot that when it's not as important. I'll wait until everybody's off it someday and I'll reboot it. But all right, guys, I'm gonna hop off of here because the wife's back home, so I'm gonna go to my little end of stream thing here. I appreciate everybody coming by. I know we had a couple of raids and stuff. On the YouTube side, we don't get to raid out anywhere, but on the Twitch side, we get to raid out. So we'll go find somebody that's doing something fun. Maybe somebody that I follow. No, nobody I'm following is doing anything Linux related. Let's go find somebody doing similar Linux type stuff. Oh, that's weird. Yeah, we don't want to go that one. It's like similar. It's like, no, I want somebody in the same category. Ah, well. Maybe we won't worry about it today, guys. We'll just call this a good one here, and I'll just say